welcome to Lifestyles of the Strange and Exotic movie review. And I finally got to sit down and watch Underworld, Bloodwars. And I grabbed it the week it came out on DVD, which is usually when the only chance I can get to watch anything, because I don't have a chance to go to the movie theaters. So by the time you get my reviews, it's been 3,000 years old. So finally finished, just now turned it off. I enjoyed the movie. I did. It was Underworld. Underworld has its own sort of universe, or it has its own sort of tone and feel, so it's definitely Underworld. And it does recap at least the first few movies that mean anything. It does skip over, like, the one that didn't need to happen. That pretty much was a movie of the cutscenes of the first two. And I don't know, but there were snippets of the previous movies. But they were in the movie in a... If you know Underworld, the vampires can relive the memories of other people by having a piece of their blood, and that's sort of an important part in this particular movie. So the memories are actually clips from the previous movies. So it was done well. Right from like the first time you see Celine, something seemed a bit off about her, so I don't know if the actress had a little work done, because there's something not quite natural with the way she kind of looked. I mean, yes, quite a few years have passed since the first Underworld. So this is the fourth or fifth movie. There's 1, 2. I think the third one was the one that didn't need to happen. Then there's the one with the kid, so this might even be the fifth movie. So a lot of time has passed. And of course vampires don't age, so... it just seemed a little odd. Not like overtly so, like she was a totally different looking person. It was just something a little slightly strange. Now, the stunts in this movie are... It's a video game done in movie form. That's what makes Underworld fun. But apparently gravity doesn't affect vampires, and more so than in this movie than any previous movie, because they're fighting in a cage. Who the hell was Celine fighting now? Oh, the little man minion there. And they're in like a cage. They're fighting like this. Then suddenly they're fighting Ella the Matrix. It's like, okay, that stretched my believability just a little too far. The woman is so... The Wicked Witch in... What was that show? Apparently they lived in some place called Storybrooke, and like the fairy tale people are actually real people. That series, whose name I can't remember because I've only watched 3 episodes. But I know enough that the villain, the like Dark Queen, the evil queen, that character is the main villain in this movie. It's just like, that's all I could think of. So it was like, any sense of treachery was just silly instead of like threatening. But those are the kind of things though that I love about Underworld. There's this level of cheese that's just... Underworld is a movie you can just sit back and enjoy. You're not going to lose any brain cells. It's just fun. So, you know, it's a lovely type of cheese. Sort of not quite as in-depth as maybe The Matrix, but it's sort of got that Matrix-y type of feel. Though I still miss Michael. He does actually play a bigger part kind of in this movie than he did like the previous one, where he was actually in the movie. It's like, he was there, they killed him, except you weren't sure if they killed him. It was like this weird thing, and he just sort of, he gets shot and disappears. But I liked Michael, but then you kind of find out what actually happened to him, and it's like, no. I don't know whatever happened to the actor who played Michael. I liked him. And my notes here, apparently vampires really like the shade blue, because all the Underworld movies are in this like if you took a picture and did like turned up the blue factor, the RPG or RGF or whatever, all the Underworld movies are in this shade of blue. Whether you're above ground, underground, daytime, nighttime, it's just blue. I don't know why. Blue moon, maybe? I don't know. But it at some points gets kind of a little too much blue, but it's what makes Underworld look like Underworld. It started off like Underworld. You had, you know, in the Citadel and all that stuff. Then apparently they go to meet the elves. Once they get to this, like, there's different covens of vampires, and apparently the ones in the States, was it the Eastern Coven? And then I guess you have like the European Coven, and there's like various, you know, little pockets of vampires. Well, apparently the Northern Coven are made of like snow elves. So help me, they are. And I swear there's one point where there's this, like, I guess princess vampire elf. She's doing this thing that kind of plays out near the end that isn't given much explanation. It's like, well, apparently you can visit the afterworld like a shaman, like a, you know, elven vampire shaman. And she's, I swear, talking elvish. It's like, what the hell? I mean, it was cool to see Underworld. Basically, Lord of the Rings with vampires. Come on. How can you go wrong? I mean, it was cool enough, and then they had this sort of like, she was like a ghost vampire. There was like this weird superpower she had, which was very elvish. And they had the white hair and everything. It's, oh my gosh. And I'm still trying to like deal with that until you get to like 5 seconds later where you have the whole Aragorn arc. I mean, there's no even subtlety here with the Lord of the Rings thing. There's this sword that apparently the guy who I didn't even remember from the previous movie, which was so kind of like meh. I guess he's like the prince of the Eastern Coven. And so they go to the Northern Elves. And they give him a sword because his mother's like a high elf vampire. And it was so Aragorn. It was that, you know, you got to reclaim your birthright because you're the true heir to this particular coven of elves. You know, you must reclaim Gondor, type of thing. But it was, it just made it silly, which made the movie more fun for me. But once you got to the end where like the actual fighting and action took place, why is it that movies nowadays don't realize you have something called brightness and contrast? Because they just brightened it up so you can see movement. Don't know what the hell the movement is. Apparently people are hitting each other because you hear the sounds, but the frickin' movie's so dark you can't see a damn thing. Why? It's like, yes, I know vampires don't like light, but it's sunlight. They can deal with flashlights, you know. It's like, drove me nuts. And the main villain, who apparently, it's like, Wolf Hulk, smash Celine. It's exactly like the Hulk. This movie made me laugh. This is why I liked this movie. It just made me laugh with the silly. The main villain, who's like the Lycan, the werewolf, because the werewolves are fighting the vampires, and this is pretty much the main core of the Underworld series. And you understand kind of what his sort of specialty is later on. And there's a point where they're on the ice and they, you know, bad guy fights Celine. And I don't know why the vampires don't shoot when the Lycans are in process of turning from human to werewolf. And it takes them like 20 seconds. It's like, come on, you could have put 15 bullets in this bastard. They wait patiently while they finish transforming to shoot them. Why? But when you first see his, like, you know, beast mode, it was the Hulk. Everything about that scene screamed the Hulk. So if the Hulk was a werewolf, this is your main villain. What the hell? And it does seem to be a little, I wasn't quite sure because I wasn't even sure when I first picked up Underworld because it just sort of, because Celine, she looked cool on the cover, so I got it from the library and I'm like, this is pretty cool, but it's really gory, but it's not like realistic gory, it's video game gory. And it kind of gets gory near the end, but it's not nearly as bad as like the second one. And it's, you know, fake gory, so it's no problem for me. And there's near the end where they had like the tanks, the sunlight, I don't know what you call the bullets that come out of a tank. I'm sure there's some name for it that deals with like light, and I don't know if they actually did the light, or they near the end they just blew holes in the thing to make light because vampires don't like light, you know, sunlight. There was a shot that was really kind of cool in slow-mo, most of the other shots are like, why is this in slow-mo? I mean, you get the shots of Celine firing her guns, which is sort of like a staple of Underworld. That's just what makes Celine cool. But then you've got like in slow-mo, and then you hear these like echoing voices, and it's like, why? And this is the first time they've done it in Underworld, where it was like, didn't add anything to the movie. It was like, eh? I think it was one point they were kind of setting up for battle. Why did this need to be in slow-mo? I don't know. And near the end, they kind of sequel bait, so I'd be happy for another sequel. I love the Underworld series. That's why I'm like, when this comes out, I've got to get it. So, but this had a little more cheese. Where before Underworld was sort of that high-end fancy pants cheese, you know, that you'd have with wine. This is the kind that you'd have in a saltine with like a beer, you know. And it's still cheesy, but it's still delicious. So, but I would suggest that you do watch the previous 1 and 2. You can skip the one that has like the flashbacks where it was like Victor and his daughter, and then the one previous. Can't remember the names. Whatever, watch them all. They're all enjoyable because, you know, you'll understand kind of more the depth of this movie, of kind of, you know, why Michael's so important and the whole thing with her daughter. So it's not terribly necessary if you started with this one, but you could appreciate it more if you started with the previous ones. So, all Underworlds, good Underworld. So I wouldn't mind at all if they made another one. I would gladly add it to my collection. I'm pretty sure I have all of them. Even the one that didn't need to matter. So, that is my review on Underworld Bloodwars. Zoo. Yeah, I took a while to get to it, but I enjoyed it. So thank you for watching. Do remember to comment, rate, share, and subscribe. There's always room for one more at the Strange and Exotic. See you next time. Bye.